This is Countdown to the Grey Cup with Bill Kelly, delivered by Purolator on the Ticats Audio Network.
Hey, welcome to another edition of Countdown to the Grey Cup, delivered by Purolator. I'm your host, Bill Kelly. Lots to talk about, of course, as we move closer and closer to the Grey Cup, which is coming up, of course, in Tim Horton Field in November. And we've talked about some of the entertainment, which is going to be great, to Carrie Underwood and some of the other great acts, including Green Day. But that's the musical part of this. But what's not lost on us here is it's a football game. And it's also a celebration of Canadian football, as it is every year. And there are a couple of events that are going to be happening during the festival that I wanted to bring attention to, including the luncheon, the alumni luncheon that is held every year as part of the Grey Cup festivities. And joining us to talk about this is our good friend Leo Ezerins, who, of course, is the president of the CFL Alumni Association. Leo, good to have you on. Thanks so much for making some time for us today.
Well, Bill, always good to see you, and congratulations on your career transition. And you're doing a great job, and it sounds like you're having some fun with it. So
I'm having a blast. Well, you and I know. I mean, the black and gold blood flows in the veins for people that are football fans in this area. So it's been a real pleasure to be able to do this. Quick history story. Years and years ago, and you remember this, of course, Leo, we had a fundraiser for Ange Moscow, our dear friend, after he was diagnosed and there were some concerns. And one of the things that the Alumni Association put up there to try to raise money for the research into that dreaded disease was a trip to Winnipeg that year for the Grey Cup. Right. And my darling wife, Rebecca, won the bid, and off we were to Winnipeg. And, of course, to the game, of course. But also, we got tickets for the Alumni Association luncheon. Now, that was the first time I'd been. I've been to other Grey Cups, but hadn't taken part in that. It was the highlight, one of the highlights of the whole week for me. It's just an incredible experience. The whole essence of football and Canadian football is there. And I'm looking forward to it this year. And I want to spend a little bit of time talking about it, because I know you guys at the Alumni Association put an awful lot of work into this. Talk to us about the event itself.
Well, first off, I want to mention there's a partnership between the TICAT Alumni Association and the Canadian Football League Alumni Association. We try to do that in every community or partner up for the event, because it's obviously important to engage our associations, as well as this year Hamilton Sports Group is partnered with us as well to give us that kind of, the higher level support from festival. And appreciate Matt Afnick and Jerry Fonzo and those folks over there to partner with us. And we always try to make it the best event ever. So the event itself, it's like you said, the idea is to keep up the traditions of the CFL. Sometimes that gets lost. So there's quite a range of alumni there, from recently retired alumni to guys who've been out for a while. And we try to engage as many alumni into the event as possible. It begins with our MC, Dwayne Ford.
Let me ask you about that, Leo, because I know one of the awards that you hand out is the Indigenous Champions Award. Talk to us about that.
Well, it was really created a couple of years ago. It started here in Hamilton 2021, and keeping with the theme of diversity and truth and reconciliation, we thought it very appropriate to honor those within the Indigenous community, whether they were a ball player or not. So it's just a way of honoring the folks. This year's award recipient is John McDonald. And those familiar with John probably saw John on the 30th. He was recognized for Truth and Reconciliation Day.
Yeah.
So it's becoming more and more a part of our event, and I think it's only appropriate that we do that.
The other element I want to bring up to people, because I want everybody who can attend to get a ticket and be there. It's not just reminiscing about the good old days. It's talking about the league now. I mean, you're a voice at the table when it talks about the future of Canadian football, too. There's an important role for the alumni, isn't there?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Randy Ambrosie's always in attendance. We have a good working relationship with the league office. This year, the CFLPA has been able to juggle their schedule, and it's incredible. Yesterday I just found out how busy the PA is. The current players are busy. How busy they are during Grey Cup. But we'll have a contingent of 20-25 Players Association members that'll be here in town. Current players and alumni within that as well. So the family is growing. And so the conversations become better and the stories become better. And, I like to say you never know what's going to happen at one of our events at any time.
There's much more to this, too. I mean, we've talked about some of the highlights of the luncheon, but there's some things that are going to happen that we don't even know about yet. It's kind of a spontaneous thing at the same time because of what's going on there. Congratulations once again to you and Rocky for this honor, sharing the Alumnus of Distinction Award for this year. Very well deserved. I know an awful lot about the work that you and Rocky do in the community, and it's one of the high points, I think, of this luncheon. The date, once again, is going to be the Friday of Grey Cup weekend, November 17th, at Leuna Station. Starts at 11 o'clock in the morning. Get your tickets now, because it's one of these things where as we get closer to the event, people are going to say, yeah, I'd like to go, and we don't want to say, sorry, it's sold out. Actually, you kind of do, because you want it to be sold out, but be included in that number, because it's going to be a lot of fun. Leo, I listen, if we had another couple of hours, I'd want to reminisce with you, too, about some of the Grey Cups that you took part in. You mentioned the 86 Grey Cup, and you and Rocky and so many other great players were a part of that. And we'll have to pick up on that a little bit later on as we get closer to the date. But thank you so much for spending some time. Yeah, go ahead.
This year's team is very much like that team in 86. Nobody gave us we didn't have a chance. I'm not going to say nobody gave us a shot, but it was scramble time at the end of the season when we peaked at the right time. Came out of nowhere, beat Toronto, who had dominated the East that year, and then we went into the Grey Cup when nobody gave us a chance against Edmonton, because Edmonton was 14-2.
Yeah, and beat you twice that year.
And soundly twice that year. Right, so it really does feel like that. I mean, the energy, the current team, and that's going to be helpful. I think there's a lot more hope around than there was a couple of weeks ago. I mean, we're in the playoffs, and you never know what can happen once you're in the playoffs.
Well, exactly, as you guys proved. I mean, even as you say, getting to the Eastern Final that year in '86, they didn't give you a chance against the Argos. And you whooped them, as they say in sports parlance, and of course the Grey Cup himself. 3 Hall of Fame quarterbacks on that Edmonton roster that year. All 3 of them got into the game, and all 3 of them spent the better part of the afternoon sitting on their bums in the backfield after you guys knocked them down.
15 sacks.
Yeah, wow.
The boys up front were hungry. So those 3 guys were Dunnigan, Damon Allen, and Tracy Ham.
Tracy Ham, yeah.
3 Hall of Famers, if you can believe it.
And a big fumble recovery, by the way, which started the onslaught that you made, of course, early in that game too. Leo, as always, thanks so much for this. This is a great event that's going to be happening, the Legends Luncheon. And if you want to get more details about this, go to greycupfestival.ca. It's all on the webpage there with all the details. Thanks for listening to us with Countdown to the Grey Cup. By the way, if you want to pick this up, talk to your friends and your fans about this as well. The Ticat Audio Network is available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your information and your podcasts. As always, Leo, thanks so much for this. We'll talk again soon, okay?
I hope so, Bill. All the best. And thanks for having me on.
And to you, too. And that wraps up the edition of Countdown to the Grey Cup. I'm your host, Bill Kelly, brought to you by Purolator. Until next time, let's go Cats. Let's go CFL. Talk soon. Bye.
2nd and 5. Joseph in the pocket, a crossing route. Fantuz reaching, grabs it, breaks a tackle, heading for the goal line. Touchdown, Saskatchewan.
Chris. It's what Andy Fantuz does at the end of the route. At the top of the corner here, he's going one-on-one on Chip Cox. Good route to get to that outside. Watch him take a step back to the football and separate himself from the defender. And then it's all just second effort to pick up extra yards. A lot of movement. Durant into the end zone. Touchdown! Andy Fantuz!
Down Saskatchewan at midfield. Play action. The outlet pass to Andy Fantuz. Cam Hall rides him to the turf. But the big kid from Chatham, Ontario, will have a Saskatchewan first down.
The outstanding Canadian in this game, Andy Fantuz, the pride of Chatham, Ontario, the University of Western Ontario Mustang grad, and a Heck Crichton Trophy winner as the most outstanding player in the CIS. Andy, you saved your best game for last.
It was a hell of a game. We played great as a team, and it's just so exciting to have the cup.
Glad you're with us here on Countdown to the Grey Cup. I'm her host, Bill Kelly. Of course, this is delivered to you, I guess we should more appropriately say, by Purolator. One of the fun parts about doing the show is talking with some of the all-time greats from past Grey Cups and some of their accomplishments and some of their memories as we head towards the Grey Cup here at Tim Horton Field. And to that end, we are so pleased to welcome our next guest to the program. He is a Grey Cup champion from a couple of years ago. We're going to talk about that game. Andy Fantuz, one of the all-time great Tiger Cats, is with us. Andy, thanks so much for joining us on the program today.
No, it's my pleasure, Bill. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to chat some Grey Cup and looking forward to what's to come in the next, 6-7 weeks?
Oh, listen, well, we know about the entertainment aspect of it, and there's some more announcements to be made on that, by the way. But the other element is who's going to play in the game. And that's very much up in the air right now, isn't it?
It sure is. I mean, there's some front runners. We all know that. The teams that seem to be sort of a tier above everyone else, but there's a few teams, including our hometown Cats, that seem to be catching fire at the right time. So I think there's a bunch of teams that are dangerous, and once you make it to the dance, it's anybody's game. You know that.
Well, we've seen that happen. As we talked about the '86 team that won that decisive victory over Edmonton, they finished with an 8-6-1 record, I think it was. Nobody gave them a chance to even beat Montreal in the playoff, let alone the Argos, and they did. So it's just Canadian football, right? And anything can happen. You've had a fabulous career, of course, and the fabulousness of it, I guess, really started even in minor football. When you were growing up, you had some success there. I saw you, and a number of other people saw you, of course, playing at Western. You had an incredible career there. You're a Heck Crichton Trophy winner. So you've been to big games, Andy. You've been to championship games. When you finally turned pro with the Riders, and you started going down that incredible season that you guys had in that particular year when you won the Grey Cup, was it different? I mean, championship games are big stuff no matter what, but I mean, you've been down that road at whatever level you were at. Was this just, it sounds silly to say, just another championship game? Or was this the Grey Cup? Holy mackerel, what am I doing here?
Oh, it was way different for me, honestly. That year, our team kind of started off slow, but we caught fire at the right time. I think it was right around Labor Day where we sort of had an adjustment and internally with in our locker room, and we went on a tear from there. And I think we ended up 12-6 that season, which was good for second place. And we barely squeaked by Calgary in the semifinal, even though it was an exciting, fun game. Like we played really well, but so did the Stamps. And then I remember going to BC for the West Final, and it was a game where only Canadians scored the touchdowns, which was kind of cool. Myself, Neil Hughes, Chris Zarka scored the touchdowns, and of course Kanji kicked the kicks. So it was all Canadian scoring, and then we went out to Toronto to play against the Blue Bombers, and it was actually Ryan Dinwiddie's first CFL start because Kevin Gunn got hurt against the Argos. So we played the Bombers, and we were favorites going into that game because of how hot we were, and of course because they were playing their backup quarterback. But it was a tight game, and it was a defensive battle. And I remember James Johnson got 3 interceptions that game, good enough for MVP of the game. And it was exciting for me. Kerry Joseph and I didn't connect on a few long passes that seemed to be there. We just couldn't get on the same page for part of the game, but ended up finishing strong and scoring a touchdown in the fourth quarter to kind of seal the game, which was just over the moon for me, excitement level, with a lot of family and my friends there. And I remember the confetti coming down and having Jeremy O'Day and Scott Schultz and Gene Mikowski raise that cup on the field. It was just wild. What a party! And then going back to Saskatchewan and the parade in the snow. It seems like yesterday, but it was really 16 years ago.
And by the way, you ended up winning the most valuable Canadian in that playoff game. So I know you mentioned that you and Kerry had some misconnections, but you ended up with pretty decent games. 4 catches, 70 yards, and a touchdown. Not a bad day's work.
Yeah, it worked out all right. And I talked about the Canadians. Actually, in that Grey Cup, we had 3 Canadian starting receivers too. Myself, Michael Palmer, and Corey Grant. So a lot of just a special era and a special team to be part of.
I know, you welcome your brothers, American, Canadian, wherever. We got Aussies, we got people from all over the world playing in the Canadian Football League now. But is there a bond with the Canadian players? Maybe unspoken? I mean, it's not, hey, we're different, but they're always kind of special. I remember talking about that 86 team and Leo Ezerins and Dave Sauvé and Paul Osbaldiston, and it's kind of like, this is our league, this is our country, and this is our championship, and it's a little more special maybe to them.
Well, it seems like the Canadian players from across teams, there's a little more continuity in that, I would think, just based on, the players seem to play longer for one team, being nationals. So you get to know players year after year and game after game from different teams, and you see them at events like the Grey Cup, or I was part of the PA for a number of years as well. So typically that's majority Canadians as well, just again because of security and longevity for certain teams. So I would say there is a bit of that there, and there's a little bit of competition both in the same team and against other teams against the Canadians. Because there are certain starting spots that are normally delegated for certain positions that are normally starting spots for Canadians. So you're kind of competing against them, and so I would say yes, but I would also, at the same token, like a number of my best friends from my playing days are American as well. So it's yes and no.
It's kind of cool, and this has been something I think as long as the Canadian Football League has been in existence, are the number of American players who come up here and have outstanding careers, and they stay here. They become part of that community, and just they just get part of, I guess, so ingrained in what's going on, and so many great Tiger Cats have done the same thing. Ange Mosca and so many others over the years that just now call Hamilton home because of their experience up here right now. And Saskatchewan, I guess, is like that. Just the whole province of Saskatchewan is just one big family, isn't it? I mean, just the camaraderie for the Rider fans, and we see them all over the league. The Riders are in Montreal. Half the stands seem to be Rider fans, and they can go to BC, and it's the same sort of thing. That had to be kind of special to play out there.
It was for sure. And a guy like George Reed is just one of the best examples of that. Came up and just became a legend in the community. And I was fortunate to play for 2 teams that have such a proud fan base and that travel well. I couldn't have really asked for a better story for me personally. And when we used to go to Calgary, for instance, a lot of Saskatchewan Tonians are, I don't know what you call them, but moved to Alberta and made a life there. So when we went there, it would be 50-50 crowd, or if not more green than red. So it was very cool. But you talked about Hamilton, like you said, Angelo Mosca, Les Brown. Like there's a number of guys who make a life in the city they played for, support the team throughout their lives, and it's really special part of the game.
Well, Pete Diakowski, I mean, there's a whole bunch of them now that have done that. We've talked about the highs of Grey Cups, and you certainly had one when you guys finally won the big game. I hate to bring this up, but we're talking about Grey Cup history. The year before that, I mean, you were in a number of Grey Cups, but the one before that had to be one of the most heartbreaking football games you ever played, because you thought you'd won. You didn't win, as it turned out. And that Montreal, of course, there was too many men on the field. Was that the call? Too many men on the field? And the field goal that should have won it for you was called back.
Yeah. Well, it actually was that was actually my second Grey Cup. My first one was the one I won. That was 2007, and then my second one was 2009, and we.
2009, that's what it was. Okay.
Yeah, the Alouettes lined up to kick a field goal, a long one, and we had too many men on the field, and so we were all running out on the field, and then there was a flag, and just a roller coaster of emotions. So they got the penalty, and Duval ended up hitting that kick.
We should mention he missed the first one.
He missed.
So you thought that's it, we've won, you know?
Yeah.
And then they just yanked it away from you.
Yeah. Well, he was the all-star kicker that year, so it's.
Oh yeah, he was.
It's not like we expected him to miss that kick. It was a little more disappointing that we had such a nice lead in the fourth quarter. I think there was 7.5 minutes left, and we were up by 16 points, and we couldn't really move the ball on offense, and we sort of played a little tentative on defense, more of a prevent, and Anthony Calvillo was just picking us apart, and
he did that a lot though to a lot of teams.
Yeah, he did, and so that one was just so heartbreaking, and that's not the only one I've been a part of that was ended up like that. The year after that, we played Montreal, and we only lost by 2 points. That was more of a back and forth game where it wasn't that roller coaster right at the end. But of course, in 2014, that was my 5th Grey Cup. A similar situation happened when Brandon Banks ran the punt return back, and of course, penalty on the play. Not only did we go back 10 yards, but we also lost about 20 seconds on the clock, and then it was just over from there. We ended up losing by a couple points.
That's a wound that's never going to heal for Tiger Cat fans. But that's the old thing from Wild World of Sports, that old TV show. You know, the ecstasy of victory and the god awful feeling of defeat. And sometimes you get highs and lows in these games too. And you've just got to be able to put up with it. But that's what the Grey Cup is all about. It's a very emotional time. I remember talking with Randy Ambrosi, the commissioner, 2 years ago when the game was at Tim Horton Field, and he was saying, I mean, he was a veteran, I guess, when he was playing. And he said, you were there, you're waiting for the national anthem, and you're lined up there. And he says, you kind of tear up just a little bit, like I'm part of a really big day here today. And that's never lost on you, is it?
Not at all. Not at all. I remember that first year, the veteran players saying, enjoy, even the coach, even Ken Austin, he said, guys, enjoy the week, take it in. But no, remember why you're here, but don't let it pass you by. Don't just sit in your room the whole time. Trying to take some of it in, and you never know if you're going to get back here, and don't take it for granted. And of course, that was my first time ever getting to the Grey Cup. I won, and then I ended up losing 4 after that. And that year we won one of the all-time greats, Milt Stegall, for instance. He had one of the best careers ever, and never had a chance to lift that trophy. And so you definitely consider yourself fortunate just to get there and a chance to win. You want to soak it all in, that's for sure. And it is something special. It's a tradition like no other, really. And CFL fans, football fans, kind of come from all over the country and even internationally, and they all bond over the Grey Cup. It doesn't matter what team you're a fan of when you go to the Grey Cup, other than if you're in the game and you're going against the other team. But all other teams, they kind of bond together, and it's a really special event. So I think I played in 5, and I think I've been to 13 others since I started. So it's been great to just be a fan, a player, any and everywhere in between.
But that's been your case all through your career, hasn't it? I mean, through football, through university as well, and you've won your share of international or individual awards. I mean, and deservedly so. I mean, you've had an incredible career. But every athlete I talk to, they say, yeah, but the number one award we want is the championship, whether it's the Grey Cup, the Super Bowl, the Stanley Cup, whatever the case might be. That this is nice, but we're a team, and there's a brotherhood on that team and in that locker room, isn't there? And you want to win the big one because everybody can share in that.
Yeah, they're never going to be able to take your name off the trophy. I'll always have my ring in the nice box, looking like shining bright, and get a chance to wear it once in a while. It really is like you can always call yourself a champion, and nobody can take that away from you, like you said. And yeah, the individual awards are nice, but they are really team awards, and they just happen to be presented to an individual. But you would never have a chance to get any of those things without the guys around you and without the organization. So you try to share those individual awards with your team as much as possible, but there's nothing like the Grey Cup championship to really share with the entire organization, fans, community, and of course the locker room itself.
Well, it's an atmosphere that seems to be just growing and growing here in the Hamilton area with each announcement about this. And as you say, with a couple of big wins by the Tiger Cats, hope springs eternal that, hey, maybe we'll be back in this one. And we'll be watching for that over the next couple of weeks, of course. And the pregame show, of course, because you are, of course, as well as being a Ticat alumni, are a part of the Ticat Audio Network. You and Bubba do the pregame shows, and after that, and your analysis is always spot on with just about everything. So we look forward to that, and look forward to hopefully another Tiger Cat appearance, and maybe a victory this time. We hope so. It's been a while in the Grey Cup coming up. As always, Andy, thank you so much for this. Great talking with you today.
Hey, thanks, Bill. It's my pleasure, and I'm really looking forward to the coming weeks for the Cats, and then, of course, the Grey Cup, regardless of who's in it, is going to be really special for Hamilton and the CFL.
Absolutely. Thanks again, Andy Fantuz. And that's a wrap for this latest edition of Countdown to the Grey Cup, delivered by Purolator. By the way, if you want to catch the word about what's going on here, you can catch us all over the place here on the Ticat Audio Network. We're available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcast. Until next time, I'm Bill Kelly. Oski wee wee.